Session for today brings together the critical enablers of transition, industry, finance, and policy. This conversation will focus on how inclusive finance, clear policy frameworks, and industry leadership can accelerate the net zero power sector. It is my honor to invite the session moderator, Shri Sushil Sharma, founder, Stratadigm. The distinguished panels for this session are Shri Rajneesh Wadhwa, Chairman, Morning Standard Clean Energy Finance, Shri Santosh Gupta, CEO, ISRN, Shri Sameer Singh, MD and CEO, Orca, Shri Prateek Kumar, Co-founder, Go Sharpener, Shri Vineet Nahata, Green Financing Expert. संतोष गुप्ता कहाँ पे वो थैंक्स मेरे पता चाहिए यहाँ पे तो कोई नाम नहीं है ये मिस्टर वर्मा इनका पूरा नाम क्या है अच्छा उदितेंदु वर्मा ठीक Sushil Sharma is Stratadigm's founder, managing director, and the head of research and design. He has expertise across all aspects of ESG and sustainability with in-depth knowledge of frameworks like IFRS S1/S2, SASB standards, GRI, ESRs, BRCR, with deep expertise in value chain analysis and ability to apply frameworks to industry types. Shri Rajneesh Wadhwa is the chairman, Morning Standard Clean Energy Finance. Dr. Rajneesh Wadhwa is a global leader in institution building, climate infrastructure, public-private partnerships, and strategic innovation with 34 years of experience across non-profit clean energy, biopharma, higher education, finance, and governance. Shri Sameer Singh is MD and CEO, Okra.org. He has 30 plus years of experience in the energy sector of fossil fuels, upstream and downstream, for global oil, energy companies like British Petroleum, Mobil Oil, Reliance Industries Limited, and water-based electrolysis, blue-oblique green hydrogen gas generation, purification, compression, and storage solutions. Shri Prateek Kumar is a co-founder, Go Sharpener. He is certified to design thinking for strategy and innovation from IIM Lucknow, MBA from IMT Ghaziabad, BE Computer Science MDU, and did his schooling from RPDS Delhi. He has also won awards like Mr. Activity Delhi 2003, Horlicks Biscuits, Vivekanand Award, and Ramakrishna Award for Best Speaker during his schooling years. Shri Vineet Nahata is green financing expert. He is director of Power Guild Fixed Income Debt Management, LLP, has domain expertise in fixed income treasury management, wherein income is maximized manifold, keeping safety and security of the capital, in fact, with an endeavor to earn a decent post-tax that beats inflation. I request a moderator to start the session, please.
Good afternoon. I hope you can all hear me clearly. We have one panelist short over here. I think Mr. Wadhwan is, Rajneesh Wadhwa is not in yet. But we'll carry on. We have paucity of time. Industry, finance and policy pathways. First thing I have to say is daunting set of panelists. Okay, so when I was told that I have to moderate this session, the first thing was nervousness. You'll soon see why. Okay, he's an expert on green hydrogen. He's got significant amount of expertise in research and skills building. And the gentleman at the far end over there, he's a finance whiz. And what am I doing over here? But look at the topic, finance and policy pathways for industry. Now, when I see that title, the first thing I'm reminded of is when someone asked Narayan Murthy of Infosys, what do you think led to the superb growth of the IT sector, his response was, government did not know we existed. That's what he said. And that is not quite the entire truth, because if you look further deeper into Mr. Narayan Murthy's life story, you'll understand that you'll see that he worked very closely with those in government to make things happen. And on finance, Warren Buffett, everybody knows, household name in investment, he also said that derivatives are a financial weapons of mass destruction. But one of his largest transactions which made him money hand over fist was in fact in financial derivatives. Means what? Means don't go by what the most interesting quotes by these great people are. You seriously need government policy support. You seriously need finance to flow, and you seriously need skill sets. Now, the three panelists that we have over here are going to help us navigate that. Okay, yeah, that's fine, yeah, okay. Please. He's getting us closer together, no problems there. So we have three panelists who are seriously good and capable at helping us bridge the policy, the need for finance, and as well how to reach this to industry. So the first thing that I want to ask Mr. Santosh is that, sorry, Mr. Samir Singh, sorry, is that we have two missing panelists actually. Okay. That's fine, because we have less time as well. Maybe you engineered this. Mr. Samir Singh, he's a green hydrogen expert. How are we going to get all these things to industry, right? So the big guys will get most of it anyway. They're well organized, I would imagine. What about the rest of India? How are we going to get the issues related to finance, the issues related to technology percolate down the line?
Good afternoon.
And let me warn you, you're carrying the load of two panelists not being present here. So I've folded all their questions into yours.
We're all learning.
Okay.
We're all learning as we go
Go
along.
for it.
Good afternoon, my learned friends, distinguished guests. And thank you, Dr. Deepak Jain, for calling me over and presenting us with this opportunity to speak to you about this new emerging sunrise sector in India, for which we are very much a part of. To give you a brief background as to what I've been up to, I started my career as an oil head, and then somewhere down the line, the mind changed and I became an environmentalist. And now the entire focus is on green energy solutions. And the whole process starts with a thought, like Dr. Jain said. So first thing was I turned vegetarian, the least amount of footprint. To answer your question, sir, it's a complicated one. It can be taken in stages. But to tell you, I wear two hats as I come along today. One is of a company called Eastern Electrolyzer Limited. We have been making electrolyzers in India for the last 40 years. In Noida, make in India, and it's our own patent product, and we've been sending it all over the country and globally. So even some companies like, I won't name them here, but they've been getting electrolyzers made from us out of the US, branding under the brand names, and selling them globally.
Amazing.
So that's where we are. The second part is a company called Orca, which I founded a few years ago, and I specialize in fuels. So two projects I'm working on at the moment is one is making synthetic aviation fuel out of hydroelectricity. And the other one I'm working on is, again, hydroelectricity into methanol, which is 100% diesel replacement. They're in two different states, too early to name the states. But synthetic aviation fuel and methanol both get very interesting when you start talking about decarbonization.
Right.
Because 1 ton of fuel produced, you're supposed to capture 25 metric tons of CO2 from a polluting industry. What it means is that you don't let the pollutants go into the air, you capture at source, you purify the carbon to a 99.99% purity to use it as your fuel. So what are your ingredients? Your ingredients is electricity, which can be renewable. It can be solar, wind, biomass, XYZ.
Right.
And second is, the biggest component you have is CO2. CO2, without CO2, you can't make fuel. So if you're looking at decarbonization, this is the biggest sector. The third is that India is a developing country. The resources are very limited. So when you start, people when start talking about ammonia, now today there is an ammonia craze in this country. Everybody is going down ammonia. Now, ammonia is great when you're going into a fertilizer sector because ammonia is a raw material. But you forget that ammonia has to be stored at minus 30 degrees centigrade to be used. So what are you doing? You're using fuel to save fuel,
Serious amount of fuel.
to store fuel.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at ammonia, you're looking at fertilizer, fair enough, to go down the urea route because you're importing a lot of it. But when you're looking at ammonia as an engine fuel, I have my doubts there. So that is something which has gone absolutely uninterrupted in India. Everybody is going ammonia. I can't understand that when you look at minus 30 to be stored in. So we don't have the infrastructure. Now you come to the fuels like E-SAF, E as in green.
Yep.
So E-SAF, E-methanol, E-ethanol, even hard plastics. You can make hard recyclable plastics out of hydrogen.
Okay.
Because once you have hydrogen in your hands, it's like getting crude oil. I can take it anywhere I want.
Yeah, right.
So this is where the industry stands at.
But how are you going to get this? So I've been tracking particularly the National Green Hydrogen Mission. So yes, I get it. And all this will be adopted by large industry,
Yeah.
large companies in the first instance.
Yes.
How are we going to get this flowing down the line? That's the question.
That's a very
Some of the
important
smaller
question.
guys.
No, it's a very important question and very relevant one because the big boys can't do everything. You have to percolate it down to smaller towns, tier 2, tier 3 cities,
Right.
tier 4 cities, to have it more inclusive overall. And the biggest thing is the government hand holding. Technology can't percolate to the ground unless government holds your hand
Right.
in doing that. And that is targeting educational areas, which my friend here and we were just
Yeah.
talking about, is that it has to go into education. Without education, you can't move forward.
No, so they too, in fact, Mr. Nahata as well, industry knows, big industry knows exactly when the government announces a policy or
Before
a
that.
mission or, maybe they were sitting there writing it in the back room, whatever it is. They know how to tap into available budgets, available grants, available cash flows, and whatever are the competent people in that field are happy to join them for good money, right? So that still leaves the question open. What happens to the rest of all the tier 2 and the smaller companies and so on and so forth? So we still need to make this reach.
I think
So what kind of policy, for instance, what kind of policy can government take? For example, National Green Hydrogen Mission. We know that all sorts of metalworks are required for, that new technology, storage vessels and pipelines because of embrittlement and related issues in green hydrogen. What kind of policy framework will help fabricators across the length and breadth of this country get into that area, for instance?
I'll answer your question. Before that, I'll complete an answer which I was attempting earlier, which is that once you go into green fuels, unlike ammonia, I can put the fuel in a glass and put it on the table
At room temperature.
at room temperature.
So you're saving that storage.
So you are saving the entire development of a new infrastructure, as it were, to be created.
But that's not green hydrogen either. You're talking about something else.
No, if I convert hydrogen into fuels,
Then.
then I can put it on a glass on the table.
And leave it on the table.
I can leave it on the table.
Okay.
So I get to use all the trucks, all the infrastructure that exists today in India versus creating a new one. It's okay for a country like Japan to create infrastructures, Germany.
So he's making an important point, which is that at source he's killing it at source. So
you have
don't
to kill
even-
at source.
Yeah.
Because you use your
You don't have CO2 at inception.
you have to use your existing infrastructure. India, unfortunately, we don't have the finance to develop new infrastructure. It will take you years to do that.
Okay, thanks. That's a good one. I'm gonna come back to you, sir.
Sure.
But I'm gonna go to Mr. Nahata before that. You said finance, right? So, Mr. Nahata, I know you're an expert in sovereign bonds, yeah? And you also said that there's a certain amount of green sovereign bond issuance that India has done. So, India has raised green finance. The money is lying with government, so to speak. I once again ask you a similar question to what I asked him. So the money is available. And, I saw the Tatas, that 18-month truck running on green hydrogen project. They know how to tap into available funding. What about down the line? What about encouraging investors to, what about a local green bond market? Let's come to that later. Let's talk about the sovereign money that's available. Technically, it's available to everyone. Why is it not getting to everyone? I'm sure there are wonderful technocrats across the country who could benefit from that money.
Reserve Bank of India has issued till date since 2022 around 53,300 crores worth sovereign green
Say
bonds.
that slowly. What is that number again?
53,300 crores.
That's a staggering sum of money. Go and say this to any
the
small and
average-
medium enterprise as available finance. He's going to be amazed.
5,000 crores to 10,000 crores is the ticket size which RBI has raised around 10 times over a period of around 3 years. Now, this money technically happens to be exclusively to be spent on green projects. RBI has outlined certain projects. I'll just read out for the benefit of all. Renewable energy, energy efficiency, clean transportation, climate change adaptation, sustainable water and waste management, pollution prevention and control, sustainable management of living natural resources and land use, green buildings, conservation of territorial and aquatic biodiversity.
So the first line item you read is power sector, which is our...
Yes, renewable
Okay,
energy.
Okay.
And I'll just run you through how the process works. The project evaluation and selection is overseen by Green Finance Working Committee, chaired by the Chief Economic Advisor of India, with members from key ministries like Ministry of Environment, Niti Aayog, and the Ministry of Finance. The funds once gets into the RBI's coffers, they are deposited into the Consolidated Fund of India and is tracked by the Ministry of Finance's Public Debt Management Cell. Now, coming to the reporting and accountability, the allocation and impact reports are published post-issuance under the supervision of the Green Finance Working Committee. As I stated earlier, CAG audits the use of proceeds.
So Vineet, hang on 1 second. I'll keep this simple. If somebody wanted to tap into this, you have all the details at your fingertips. If somebody wanted to tap into this funding, there are two things they can do straight away. One is contact FII and say, hey, I heard in your seminar that there's this much amount of money available. Yeah? Or reach out to you and say, help us go through that process. Is that fair?
Yes.
Instead of...
Now,
both the industry forum and Vineet and other finance professionals are available who will help industry tap into that money. Is that right, sir?
absolutely.
So if we have technology and we have money, and I'm going to come back to you again on how to incentivize investors as well. You talked about greenium with me, about that as well. But for starters, if we've got technology and we've got money, where are we going to get the people who are going to make the magic happen? Because if people have followed Elon Musk's interviews, he's a crazy guy, okay? But when you listen to his interview, he always says, my team, my people. He could not have built whatever he built and ran what he ran without great people. And Pratik is going to tell us how we're going to get the people that we need. And I can tell you, Pratik, I've worked in this for like 6 years, right from plumbers who can stop that leak at the tap all the way up to, just one level below all the amazing people we've been seeing on the panels here today. Like, kind of people that could learn from him or from him and then carry that message forward. How are we going to get that done?
All right, yeah, thank you first of all for this amazing opportunity. I am Pratik Kumar, I represent Go Sharpener. I'll quickly give you a background about what we do.
Please.
And how it aligns with the overall mission. I represent Go Sharpener. Go Sharpener is a platform which builds sustainability scores for students and schools. Our belief is that the way we have an academic score, which talks about your marks in math, science, English, the way we have a CIBIL score, which talks about our financial health, each individual should have a sustainability score, which is a measure of your eco-friendly contributions. So that's what we are building. We work with around 3 lakh youngsters in the country across 300 schools, and they are building their scores brick by brick, block by block, by taking specific actions which are pro-planet in nature, which eventually get quantified into a score. And then we have a huge rewards engine. That what does this score enable you to do? So while youngsters are in school, this score enables them to get certificates, vouchers, master classes.
Awesome.
They get access to internships in their summer
5%
vacations.
less on airfare or train fare, maybe? Yeah.
That's where we want to head to. So far, we are able to enable them with certificates, internship opportunities, master classes, and we have also created a cohort of sustainability-focused colleges which give them an edge in admissions.
Okay.
Because our thought is that if you get 1 mark extra for being in an MUN or being an athletics, being a participant in athletics, why should you not get benefit in admissions if you can prove that you are a pro-planet individual? So that's what we are solving. Each one of us should have an eco-friendly score, and that score should open doors for various opportunities, including maybe a loan at a better interest rate going forward as an individual.
So are you saying that more environmentally aware, sustainability aware students are more prone to seeking a career in sustainability?
Awareness and action as well.
Action.
Because, so the platform basically not only, so we start with awareness. We align with the national education policy. There are mission guidelines by Ministry of Education, wherein we have to work on Earth Day, we have to work on Environment Day, we have to work on Water Day. So on these important days which are mandated by the government for educational institutions to work on, we bring in experts. So the activity for Earth Day is recommended by Tata Power. The activity of Water Day is recommended by WaterAid India. The activity of Animal Day is by PETA India. So that each one of us can take quantifiable, measurable actions and then report on their profiles. So that you can improve your score continuously year after year. So we start with awareness, then we lead to actions leading to building of that score. And that the motivation for the students as starters is that this will be another metric which will help them with recognition, whether it is in colleges or in corporate or in the larger scheme of things going forward. So we are trying to bridge the gap between a lot of organizations which are trying to do actions around sustainability. We are trying to create a metric which gets them recognition for being pro-planet individuals. So all the points that you mentioned, so all the industries, the respective users of the products of those industries should be incentivized in some way or the other so that the adoption increases at scale. And that's what we are trying to build. And now coming to the larger question that how do we percolate this at scale? Uh, so more than 30% of our population is under 18 years of age. We are absolutely sitting on a huge amount of talent pool, uh, which can really get trained on green skills. My thought is that the first thing we can do is make green skills absolutely mainstream. Like we know how to use MS Office, maybe MS Word, MS PowerPoint. We should make understanding of working of a solar panel or servicing of an EV appliance or a car
Bringing it into the curriculum?
mainstream. Yeah.
Bringing it into the curriculum.
Into curriculum, and the way you use Microsoft Word as a part of your schooling life, not
Correct.
realizing it's a separate subject. If we can bring such specific green skills mainstream at that level, it will become a way of life. So that can be a starting point, is what I believe. And
So somewhere down the line, we'll see one sustainability Sahi Hai campaign from you, I suppose.
so campaigns, absolutely.
Because you're going to have to take it to that level. I suppose.
Absolutely. And then, so awareness is one. We have to link it with careers, right? So today, if we link it to the latest boom that we had was in technology, right? So we had a lot of certifications, like CCNA certifications for networking, etc. The next thing we need to bring on is certifications, which are not only recognized here in India, but globally, around different green skills. So one is making green skills mainstream, and then getting certifications system such that people who are actually trained on those skills being recognizable whether in India or abroad. So these two systems, and we've seen this with a lot of other technologies in the past, the latest one being IT, the preceding boom that came in.
Yep.
I think green skills can absolutely follow the footsteps. We know the blueprint, how to make it mainstream, get into certification agencies, and the industry can then create awareness that what are the kind of career options you have.
Right,
If you pursue an environmental engineering,
right.
what are the kind of opportunities you have if you pursue maybe a career in sustainability finance or green finance, so that they
So-
start working on that. Yeah.
Pratik, sitting right next to you is this gentleman who has innovated. I mean, I was taken aback, and one of the things that you said, there's a lot of synergy between, actually all three of you, but the two of you particularly, that things that he's building, he needs people of that bent of mind to expand his work. So if you could just please, so a question for you. I was completely taken aback to know from you that electrolyzers being made in India with stickered on as made in the US or some US brand. How can we make India, and this is relevant for the global south, which is now a very current thing. I don't know why it went out of fashion. We've always, all of us, been in the same boat, the global south. Why can't India, people like you, how can the policymakers make people like you, the world come, starting with the global south, but why not the developed world as well, come to India for all its green stuff, your technology, your electrolyzers, which you're already doing. What about the rest of the world? What policy will it take to make that happen, make them come here? India be the leader in net zero? India be the leader in green skills? What do you think can go in that direction? And right after that, we'll catch Mr. Nahata, because we need money to get all this done. Yeah, please.
You see, India is poised beautifully, because recently I was in a seminar which was held by a government PSU and Airbus.
Okay.
So half of the day, Airbus was talking about the potential India has for biomass.
Yes.
All they were talking about was biomass, while we are trying to burn ourselves with electricity we are already producing.
Right.
India has two challenges here. One is to generate more electricity, and the other is to reduce your emissions.
Yes.
Both of them can't be done hand in hand unless you think differently.
Right.
So for that, you have to have technologies like this to come in and find other ways of doing it. Somebody mentioned earlier about rice husks being burnt in Punjab and elsewhere.
We'll hear about it in a month's time.
We'll be smelling it in a month's time.
Yeah.
And it'll be time of the year when we say everything.
Yeah.
Okay, long story short, two things I will address here. One is, when you're looking at this industry, one is before the process, I would look at the process. How do you prepare yourself to get there? Now, in order to get there, you need to look at the industry and make certain holistic views. One is that, okay, where do I tax the industry? Now, you can't tax the industry on the raw material. Then you tax the industry on the finished goods. And then you say, okay, I want to lend you money at 14%, go do your job. You cannot. I mean, if you're looking at finance out of Japan or Germany or US, you're looking at 4 to 5%.
Mr. Nahata is going to make that lower for you.
You must.
Hang on to that. But is the government policy doing enough to... Okay, let's talk about your personal experience. Have you personally seen enough support from the government in helping do what you do? Or did you get there by just slogging it out?
This slog in India is important.
Way of life.
It's a way of life. You can't do without it. You can, it would have been
What
lot
about-
easier.
What policy would have helped you along better?
For instance,
Finance, he'll take care.
you see,
Other than
finance,
that.
we'll get to finance in a later way. Let me tell you one more thing, is like green hydrogen doesn't have a price mechanism fixed at the moment.
Right. It's evolving.
How do you get to your ROI?
Right.
So how do I calculate my ROI when I don't know what price
Yeah.
I'm selling at? So either you open the Indian...
But you're selling electrolyzers already.
Electrolyzer is different. Electrolyzer is very rudimentary when you're looking at replacing a $580 billion industry. That's the amount of crude you're importing. How do you do that?
Now you're talking.
How do
Go
you do
on.
that? So the basic thing is you fix your pricing. Where do you want to price a product at?
Okay.
Are you looking at domestic market?
So you're saying without getting into too much of detail over viability, funding gap and stuff, put a benchmark and give industry a measure to work
a
with.
clear mandate to work on, and a mandate which has flexibility built in, because the beauty of this industry is, in context of India, is that if I am in the northeast, I'll be inclined to use bamboo or other biomass.
Right.
If I am towards Himachal other side, I have hydroelectricity.
Right.
If I go down south, I'll be looking at rice husk.
Yes.
If I'm Punjab, I'll be looking at wheat husk.
Yes.
So you're looking at hybrid solutions.
Yes.
Let me also say this, on terms of solar. All day long, people were talking about solar. But we are importing all our solar out of China. So who are you promoting? So you're looking at rare earth metals. Let me tell you, we have rare earth metals called perovskites in India. We are the second largest holder of perovskites in terms of raw material or rare metals, as it were. But no work has been done.
What have we done with it?
Nothing. We haven't produced a single solar panel from perovskites.
There you go.
The other thing is, the second largest resource we have in the world after China is a thing called thorium.
Yeah.
So why aren't we doing anything on thorium? You look at perovskites and thorium.
That's a great energy solution.
That's when we are talking.
Yeah.
That's when India starts talking.
Right.
Now, for instance, electrolyzer, we are importing raw material from what, 28 countries to get this electrolyzer together. So if I see a headline in the newspaper that somebody's going to set up 1,000 megawatt electrolyzer capacity, I wonder how. Because West is closing
Rimika,
shop.
madam, you can straight away note down two things that he has said. Thorium as an...
Perovskites.
Professor Abdul Kalam also mentioned it in one
I'm
of his
in
talks.
nowhere close there, but sir,
Yeah, but you're an action guy, no?
I'm an industry.
And also perovskites.
Perovskites is another raw material we have. You're not looking at rare earth metals.
So there are a couple of things that we can do already straight away.
This
But
is your think tank.
But one very interesting thing, okay, I think you did the forum a good service by bringing out, two nuggets over there.
These are the nuggets.
Yeah. One of the things that I find very interesting in context of what you just said is that, recently after Trump has done what he's done, I see a lot of WhatsApp university messages about boycotting all the American things. You just spoke about how we've done nothing to replace China. Solar is just,
Rebranding.
yeah, solar is just funding China.
Yes, you're funding China.
Yeah. And 5 years, 6 years ago, we were supposed to leave all the Chinese things.
Exactly.
So finally, what am I supposed to be eating? Rice husk, because I've boycotted US, I've boycotted China. It's not going to get us anywhere. What you're saying is going to get us somewhere, but for that we need money.
Yeah, one more thing I'll say.
Yes, sir.
Like electrolyzer is a lot of metallurgy which is not in India. You have to import it.
Okay.
Now you're looking at the Kaveri engine or the jet
Yeah,
engine that
yeah.
India is trying to develop for so many years.
Yes.
Where have we failed? We have failed in the education of metallurgy. You require a thing called single crystalline metals, which you don't have. So what are you looking at? I mean, you can start talking as much as you want, but unless you don't concentrate on these core issues of developing within India and having the strength. I mean, what the hell do you have to export?
Right.
You can't rebrand and export further. So if you're going to rebrand Chinese solar panels and sell it to Africa that this is made in India, that's not the answer.
Right.
So we get to finance later on.
Yeah, but we'll get to finance. But I think Pratik already when you're talking about skills and possible career opportunities, we need to pick his brains and factor that into, weave it into stuff that you're doing. Can I just get Mr. Nahata to tell us what in the green bonds space is missing to fire it up? Look, I work in finance, okay? Every single guy will say, can you get me funding? And then welcome to Mr. Vineet Nahata, who's like, here's the funding, where are the guys to take the money? Please. Please spice up green bonds for us.
India, the Reserve Bank of India has launched sovereign green bonds, but unfortunately there are not many takers. I'll just introduce the concept of greenium. Maybe people you all might be knowing it already. Greenium is the premium which a borrower gets in terms of lower interest rate while he is borrowing from the market, because the project for which he is borrowing, the end use of the funds happens to be for either SDG or ESG compliant purposes, environment protected, climate change initiatives, and to ensure that his project is not contributing in any way to the pollution and environment degradation, and additionally ensure that it is going to reduce the carbon footprint. So for doing all these goods, all these good things, or all these noble gestures, he is expecting a lower rate of interest from the lender. That is called greenium. If under normal circumstances, if a company could borrow at say 7%, if he is issuing a green bond, ideally he should be getting funds at 6.5%, and 0.5% happens to be the greenium. Abroad, overseas, the greenium is roughly 30 basis points to 50 basis points, and in some cases it is 70 to 80 basis points where the projects are of critical importance. In India, unfortunately, the greenium is not only 5 basis points, not more than 5 basis points.
There is 0.05%.
0.5 paisa.
It should be 10 times that you're saying.
Yes.
What
And
is not letting it happen?
In the secondary market, I just checked before coming here, the sovereign green bond, 6.79% sovereign green bond 2034, and 6.79% ordinary bond. The ordinary bond is trading at 6.58%, whereas the sovereign green bond is not finding takers even at 6.61%. So this clearly exposes the frugality of our Indian financial system as far as the awareness of the product in the market. When we invest in equity shares, if you find two similar companies, there is a price earning multiple. in sovereign bonds, there is no concept of price earning multiple because both the bonds are similar. Like all the bonds are issued by Reserve Bank of India. So the awareness is so poor as far as the popularity or of the sovereign green bonds is not at all there.
So, Vinit, sorry to, we are on some strict timeline constraints here. Tell me, I know you have top of the mind 3-4 things that government can do. Government has done it for other financial instruments. If they replicate it for this, we'll see lot more attractiveness for the investors also and lot more attractiveness for industry as well.
Right.
Just throw those at us. I need to be able to ask some questions of the audience, so please give me some time.
To make these green bonds popular with the investors is very important because the issuers of the green bonds, if they do not get money at a cheaper cost, they are stressed on the margins. The government needs to work on 3 or 4 things. One is the bond issuances via either sovereign green bonds or green bonds need to be recognized as the eligible investment avenue in the priority sector lending. Priority sector lending, all the banks have to compulsorily fulfill their quota, and in due course these bonds are going to be subscribed if they are accorded the priority sector lending status. The interest which is earned on sovereign green bonds, the investor is not ready to sacrifice a single paisa for greenium. If there are tax incentives given, if the government makes a rule that the interest which is earned on sovereign green bonds has to be taxed at a lower tax rate, this could create investor attraction and make the investment in sovereign green bonds much popular. The third avenue is that there are several institutional investors who are sitting on large pool of funds, like Employees Provident Fund Organization, ESIC, the gratuity and pension funds. So there is an investment pattern which these institutional investors need to be following. Recently, the AIFs have been included. 5% allocation has been made for AIFs. If in the investment pattern of these institutional investors, say 5% or 10% quota is reserved for green bonds, compulsorily they have to invest there and the green bonds are going to get a lot of traction. So these are few things which were there in my mind, which if the policy advocacy is done in a proper way to Finance Ministry and Environment Ministry, and if these measures are implemented, they are going to go a long way in popularizing and getting much more traction in the green bond segment.
Great stuff, Vinit. So again, some homework for you. There's some couple of ideas there on loosening up the money. But one thing I find very peculiar in this entire discussion, on the one hand, he's talking about unleashing more money. On the other hand, there's money which people don't know how to tap into. He said both of those. Just because it was in the previous and this round, still that remains. And the question for you, and then what you want to say, yeah.
I personally feel, it's my humble opinion, that if you want to make a last mile difference to the guy in the village, then you go through our post offices.
Right.
A guy who's running his water pump on solar power.
Right.
How does he benefit with credits? He's made an investment.
Yeah.
So I should be in a
You're
position.
just telling him to be grateful that he's got power instead of incentivizing him further.
Exactly. So
they're like, you be grateful, you got power.
No, he's bought those panels.
Correct.
The fact is that he's running that for the last 10 years. And there is a traceability to it.
Right.
You go to a post office and go encash your bonds. Say, I've been doing it for X amount of years.
Great.
That's the time the guy on the ground in the village will make a difference. The only thing that penetrates to that level is the post office network.
Absolutely.
Just an example.
Great idea. But you're talking about the small guy. Have you ever been able to tap into anything like green finance?
No.
Because much of what you do is in the green space.
Internationally, we got a lot of attention, nothing locally.
No money, no real money.
No real money.
No real money.
No real money.
Anybody here raised money using green finance? No. Anybody here needs money? Contact Mr. Vineet Nath. Questions, please, from the audience. Yes, sir. Do you have a mic there near you? Here.
Sir, my question is, what are legal obligations in India which mandates company to fix their net zero target?
Sorry, repeat that.
What are legal obligation in India which mandates companies to fix their net zero target?
Anyone have the answer on that?
I can say something about it.
Please.
You see, right now, a lot of my learned friends had addressed this question earlier, where you are totally dictated by the West. And somebody, I think Jain Saab also pointed out that you are not looking at what the West is dictating to you in terms of credits. You need to be dictated the other way around. So that starts with traceability of what you're doing. And the certification of yours should stand true globally.
Right.
Right now what's happening is, like, if you are mandated by the international community to buy green synthetic aviation fuel, so the Indian government goes and buys it out of Singapore. So we need to have that going in India rather than shopping abroad, even for carbon credits, carbon sequestration, or any kind of thing which comes into the gambit of these things.
So there are three specific things, sir. One is in the BRSR report, every company is supposed to put out a forward-looking statement on what is their plan for net zero. Yeah, but since BRSR is still under evolution in India, has the regulator started to look at it? Why even credit rating agencies or ESG rating agencies, are they looking at those disclosures and taking it forward? That's a question. The second place where it comes in is in Vineet's space. If you issue a green bond saying, I will take my emissions down to net zero, then he was about to mention, I'm sorry I butted in and stopped him from doing that. Post-issuance monitoring is required to make sure that you're on track to achieve what you've promised while raising green finance. Neither of these at this point in time is a legal obligation.
Just interrupt once.
Yep.
There is a concept of clawback. So a company if has issued green bonds promising that the funds are going to be used in a green project and certain conditions shall be complied with. Now, in case the company fails to do that, the greenium which has been taken by the company has to be reversed. They have to be paid to all the issuers. So this clawback clause is very commonplace abroad. In India, there is no concept of clawback clause. Even in the draft prospectus, there is no mention of
When they are not giving you lower rate of interest, what will they claw back? So basically, if you don't meet your goals, the interest will be higher. Mr. Jain, sir, please.
विनीत जी, थोड़ा ओवरव्यू फाइनेंस के मामले में हमको देखना पड़ेगा. ग्रीन, ब्लैक, वाइट फाइनेंस, ये सब लफ्ज़ों के खेल हैं.
जी.
हम 4.5 ट्रिलियन की इकोनॉमी है. हमको 30 ट्रिलियन के पार जाना है. For every $1 trillion of expansion in your size, you need at least $1 trillion money. कहाँ से आएगा पैसा? FII को इस बात का गर्व है. 10 लाख करोड़ की फैसिलिटी हमने MSME के लिए कोरोना पीरियड में सरकार से कह के कराई. हरियाणा की इंडस्ट्री के लिए 25,000 करोड़ का कैबिनेट का रेजोल्यूशन पास करके फैसिलिटी कराई. हमारे ही प्रपोजल पे 60,000 करोड़ रुपया वॉलंटरी डिस्क्लोजर में आया. अधिकारियों ने ट्विस्ट कर दिया उसको, क्योंकि उनकी आदत है कि कोई अच्छी स्कीम को लागू नहीं होने देते। अभी मैं फिर आपको, आई थ्रो ए चैलेंज टू यू, भारत में फंडिंग चीपर रेट पे 3%, 4% पे कैसे ला सकते हो? दुनिया के किसी भी देश से लाओ, वर्केबल प्रपोजल होनी चाहिए। वी विल फाइट फॉर द प्रपोजल, वी विल मेक इट श्योर कि वो थ्रू हो जाए सरकार में, लेकिन लाओ प्रपोजल बढ़िया सी। आधा परसेंट, 1/4% के ऊपर मत झगड़ो, पूरी तलवार काट के उसको 3% के ऊपर लाओ।
I would like
1
to,
ट्रिलियन, 2 ट्रिलियन, 3 ट्रिलियन फंड्स कैसे मोबिलाइज कर सकते हो उसकी बात करो,
sir,
तो हजारों करोड़ की बात मत करो।
सर मैं आपको
आपकी सपोर्ट में
अभी डेटा बता देता हूँ।
डेटा
हाथों
देना
हाथ,
चाह रहा हूँ।
वन सेकंड, हाथों हाथ सर। फर्स्टली आपने जो एम्बिशन रखा है ना इंडिया के लिए, सुन के दिल खुश हो गया। बट लेट मी टेल यू सर, आज के डेट में ये जो ग्रीन फाइनेंस है, इसमें सालाना, अभी भी आप हाथों हाथ आप क्लाइमेट बॉन्ड इनिशिएटिव के वेबसाइट पे जाइए, सालाना $1 ट्रिलियन अवेलेबल है ग्रीन फाइनेंस में। भारत आराम से सरकार के माध्यम या प्राइवेट कंपनी को जरिया, विनीत जी जरिया समझाने को तो तैयार हैं ही, आराम से 1 ट्रिलियन पर ईयर सर ग्रीन फाइनेंस में अवेलेबल है पर ईयर।
मैं आपसे जो अर्ज कर रहा हूँ, आप देश के लिए फाइनेंस कैसे मोबिलाइज कर
सर,
सकते हैं?
मैं
उसकी बात कर रहा हूँ।
उसका प्रस्ताव बना।
I just wanted to give some evidence in support of what you just mentioned. India is the only country which has a real rate of return of around 5.5%. Real rate of return होता है nominal rate जिसपे हम लोग ये सरकार बोरो करती है। हर देश का, किसी भी देश का सेंट्रल बैंक किस रेट के ऊपर में, जिसको रिस्क फ्री रेट कहते हैं, हमारे यहाँ 10 साल की गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटी का यील्ड है 6.8%। हमारे यहाँ इन्फ्लेशन है 1.6%। 5.2% का रियल रेट ऑफ रिटर्न है। इन्फ्लेशन बाद देने के बाद इतना ज़बरदस्त रिटर्न किसी भी विश्व में कहीं पे भी नहीं है। इस बात को हम कैपिटलाइज नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। रिसेंटली हमारा अभी सॉवरेन रेटिंग अपग्रेड हुआ, आज मंत्री जी भी कह रहे थे। सॉवरेन रेटिंग अपग्रेड ये हमारा बहुत पहले हो जाना चाहिए था, किसी कारणवश ये हो नहीं पाया।
अब वो दीपक जी कह इतना रहे हैं कि इसके नाउ दैट यू हैव एस्टैब्लिश्ड इट कि ये सब होना चाहिए और हो सकता है, प्रस्ताव रखिए।
India has the potential of drawing money. In 2047, we are poised to be a developed nation. The yield curve of our sovereign government security already establishes it. As 2047 minus 2025, 22 years.
मैकेनिज्म बनाओ, प्रपोजल बनाओ, पैसे का रंग कोई नहीं होता, ना काला होता, ना सफेद होता, ना हरा होता, देश में पैसा लाओ।
सर,
Yes,
रिजर्व बैंक की कुछ नीतियां अगर थोड़ी सी हो जाएं,
वही तो
आराम से आ जाएगा। सर, पहले मैं एक एग्जांपल देता हूं। पहले मसाला बॉन्ड्स का कंसेप्ट आया था। मसाला बॉन्ड्स जबरदस्त सक्सेसफुल हुए थे, उसके बाद में उनको स्क्रैप कर दिया गया।
What Mr. Jain has said, Dr. Jain, my question is, you have said that there should be a change of the policy.
यस
कि इसको जो है priority lending में आना चाहिए. So my question to you is, as far as priority lending is concerned, finance to the agriculture, finance to the MSME is already in the private sector. The sector which you have named, they are possible in the MSME sector. और इसको से कटर नीति, एक तरफ MSME को हम अपना बढ़ा के करना चाह रहे हैं, एक तरफ जो बॉन्ड है और वो सारी टेक्नोलॉजी जो आपने नाम ली है, that is possible within the MSME.
Yes, if absolutely, I support your view. If the MSMEs which are going to borrow, if they change their standard operating procedures into green, they have access to lower cost funds, and that is going to increase the bottom line.
इसका प्रचार करना जरूरी है। ये सब मालूम है लोगों को, इसका प्रचार करना। एनी अदर क्वेश्चन?
सर, मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है।
यस।
ये हम जो ग्रोथ ट्रेजेक्ट्री में इंडिया में आगे बढ़े हैं आफ्टर इंडिपेंडेंस, उसमें ट्रांसफ़र ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी एंड इंपोर्ट का मटेरियल यूज़ करके का बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहा है। हमने टेक्नोलॉजी बाहर से ली है, अब इंडिजीनियसली भी हमने बहुत सारा काम किया, लेकिन अब जो कुछ बहुत सारा मेजर कंट्रीब्यूशन बहुत जो रहा है वो रहा इंपोर्ट सब्स्टिट्यूशन का या इंपोर्टेड मटेरियल विथ ट्रांसफ़र ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी। तो अभी जो हम कोप्स 21 में हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब ने जो कमिटमेंट किया है कि 2070 तक हम पूरी तरह से हम जो है ये नेट जीरो पर आ जाएंगे, और जिसके लिए हमें जो सामान की ज़रूरत है, जो चाहे हमारे, मैं समीर सिंह साहब से बात कर रहा था सुबह में, तो जो हमारे इलेक्ट्रोलाइजर्स या जितने सामान हैं, अभी हम लोग ये भी बात कर रहे थे कि रॉ मटेरियल हम भेजते हैं, वी आर रिच इन मिनरल प्रोडक्शन, और लेकिन फिनिश्ड गुड्स जो है हम विदेशों से मंगाते हैं, मोस्टली चाइना से या अमेरिका से। तो अगर हम इस पर हमारी डिपेंडेंस बनी रहेगी तो कैसे फ्यूचर में जाकर के हम अपने टारगेट को अचीव कर पाएंगे? अगर ये इस तरह से अगर हम हमेशा इंपोर्टेड ही सामान खरीदेंगे, पैरेलली हम उसके लिए क्या व्यवधान आ रहा है कि हम इंडिया में ही सारा कुछ क्यों नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, और ताकि हम फास्टर पेस में काम कर पाएँ।
अब आपको बताना पड़ेगा सर, ऐसे दीपक जी का स्टैंडर्ड बड़ा क्लियर है, वो प्रस्ताव रखें, हमको चाहिए इतने ट्रिलियन, पैसे का कोई रंग नहीं होता। अब ये सारा सामान इंडिया में कैसे बनाया आप बताइए।
और ये कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव।
सर आप टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट हो, वो पूछ रहे हैं कि ये सब बाहर के देशों से क्यों मंगा रहे हैं, यहीं क्यों नहीं बनाते?
सर इसमें सुबह हमारी बात हो रही थी इस पे ठाकुर साहब, वो ये था कि जो मेटलर्जी है वो हमारे यहाँ एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती। अब पिछले 40 साल से सर हम जेट इंजन नहीं बना पाए।
सर आप उस सिविलाइजेशन को ये चीज़ कह रहे हो जिसने वो जो अशोका पिलर जिसे कहते हैं ना यहाँ पड़ा।
एग्जैक्टली सो
वी डोंट नो मेटलर्जी।
सर दूसरा ये है कि you'll be surprised to know that Munger in Bihar, the best ballistics created in a gun bullet was done in Munger, which was adopted by the Western world.
Wow.
Look at the arm industry in Munger today.
All lost and forgotten.
It's all lost and forgotten, and this is in the last 200 years. We're not talking about Ashoka pillar, which nobody knows what the date is. I'm talking about Munger, which is 200-year-old story. So whatever technology is existing here, we need to promote it and further enhance it, and education is the primary driving force, Thakur Sahab. And people like you in NHPC,
I think
who can do this thing with your budgets, and we can work with you with both education and technology and make sure you percolate within the NHPC world, if it were. हम लोग वो भी कर सकते हैं.
We are moving towards solar, wind, and we are already in there. But we will buy product. We normally what do we award the contract? Our contractor brings material from the available sources.
Yes.
The sources may be in India, may not be in India.
Yes.
And as per the discussion held with you, I could understand that most of the items, specialized type electrolytes, etc., they are being imported.
Yes, sir.
So the growth which is required for the time frame set to us, I think we should have proper import substitution facilities, and so that we should manufacture these items to here also, because in transfer of technology has been found shortest route for early development, but that too has some consequences that to have its own demerit or its own price.
So you said it so truly, Thakur Sahab. You're so much to the point. I think that's what Jain Sahab addressed with the concerned minister this morning, is to open up that platform on which everybody sits together. There's a think tank जो इस पे बैठ के decide करे कि हम लोग इस पे कैसे implement करें, और execution हमारे context में, इंडिया के context में execution बहुत important चीज़ है सर.
जी, और सेकेंडली एक बात और बोलूँगा, ये अभी बात हो रही थी कि एक मिनिमम प्राइस फिक्स कर दिया जाना चाहिए हाइड्रोजन का या कुछ. अभी क्या है कि वो कॉस्ट बेसिस पर सिस्टम में जितना खर्च आया उस पर मिनिमम प्रॉफिट लेकर के मार्केट में सेल करते हैं. अगर वो हम कर देंगे और कॉस्ट ज़्यादा जाएगा तो उसको गवर्नमेंट क्या सब्सिडाइज करेगी उसको, या फिर किस तरीके से उसका मेकअप करना पड़ेगा? मान लीजिए कि 12 रुपये हम फिक्स कर देते हैं और मैन्युफैक्चरर को उसको 20 रुपये आता है.
Can I take that? सर नेशनल ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन मिशन में ये फंडिंग वायबिलिटी गैप फंडिंग में कवर किया जाएगा. बट आई हैव टू क्लोज द सेशन. सर थैंक यू वेरी मच. इट्स क्लियर फ्रॉम द डिस्कशन दैट द नेशन हैज इट्स वर्क कट आउट फॉर इटसेल्फ, वेदर इट इज ऑन टेक्नोलॉजी साइड, on financial side, or on skills development side. It's a good note on which for the fourth session to end is, okay, enough of talking for the day, now go out and do all this over the next few quarters. Is that right? Starting with his proposal for raising money. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We thank our moderator and the panelists for their forward-looking insights into finance, skills and policy to India's net zero ambitions. May I request Utidendu Verma and Dr. Shailendra Vyas to do the felicitations, please. Shri Sushil Sharma. Shri Sushil Sharma. Shri Sameer Singh. Shri Prateek Kumar. Shri Vineet Nahata. Thank you, everyone. May I now request Dr. Shailendra Vyas and GL Khanna ji to come and do the facilitations. And Sanjeev ji also. And Sanjay Gupta ji, please.
नेक्स्ट वाले में फैसिलिटेशन के ना संजय गुप्ता जी और शैलेंद्र व्यास.
Yes, sir, we have to, platform like this is amazing.
Huh? May I request Dr. Shailendra Vyas and Sanjay Gupta ji to do the felicitations, please. Dr. Bishikant Jain.
Dr. Bishikant Jain. Vishika Jain. Yeah. Shri Arvind Pandey. Shri Arvind Pandey. Shri S.N. Sharma.
अरविंद पांडे जी एफआईआई के एडवाइज़र भी हैं और ये वो शख्सियत हैं जिनको खुद ही मालूम नहीं कितने आईएएस को ट्रेन कर चुके हैं ये।
Shri S.N. Sharma. Shri Uditendu Verma ji. Miss Sapna Mudgal. Miss Sapna Mudgal.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to the closing and way forward session of the Net Zero Power Summit 2025. To begin with, may I invite Dr. Rimika Kapoor, Joint Director, ESG Committee, FII, to present a recap of the session highlights.
Honorable dignitaries, respected panelists, and dear participants, as we close today's deliberations, allow me to share the most important takeaway from today's discussion. I'll keep it short. So the most important thread across all the session is very clear that the net zero power sector is the foundation of net zero India. Technology, finance, resilience, and people must work together to turn today's vision into tomorrow's reality. On behalf of Federation of Indian Industry, I extend heartfelt thanks to our speakers, moderators, and delegates. The conversations we had today will directly guide the work of FII working groups on carbon innovation and policy, which we are launching to ensure continuity beyond this summit. Regarding the working group on net zero and carbon innovation, I would like you all, I'll request all of you to please send in your nominations to FII email ID, and then we'll get back to you soon regarding the procedures. Thank you. I would like to call the volunteers to the stage. All the volunteers for the workshop, please come on the stage, please. I request Deepak sir and Sanjay sir, please come. Mr. Pransh Kaushik. Mr. Pransh Kaushik. Ms. Kaurangi Agarwal. Ms. Kaurangi Agarwal. Mr. Chidambaram.
इन बच्चों के लिए ताली जरूर बजाइएगा।
Ms. Nikita Sharma. Ms. Avni. Ms. Nandini Kalra. And Ms. Dia. Sanjay Patel. Thank you all the volunteers for helping in organizing this event and make it a big success. Last but not the least, I would like to thank Dr. Deepak Jain and Mr. Sanjay Gupta ji for helping us and having this vision of Net Zero India and helping us in organizing this event and making it a big success. Thank you, Mr. Verma. Thank you, Udit ji. With this, we officially conclude Net Zero Power Summit 2025. Please join us for the networking tea and continue with conversations informally. We look forward to seeing you again at our future events. Thank you and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.